Have you ever wanted something so badly that even the world's riches couldn't buy it? Because the one thing you desire is the one thing you're forbidden to have. In a world that worships money, status, and outward displays of success, it is easy to assume that the people who possess the most are also the happiest. We see billionaires living in mansions, flying in private jets, and commanding the attention of millions with a single decision. Yet behind that image of perfection lies a truth that is often overlooked. No amount of wealth, no amount of power, and no number of possessions can fill the void created by emotional emptiness. A billionaire may have a penthouse that touches the clouds, but that does not mean he has someone waiting at home to greet him with warmth. He may own fleets of cars and entire islands, but that does not guarantee he has someone who truly listens to him, understands him, or loves him beyond the surface. Emotional connection is not a product you can purchase. It cannot be wired through a bank transfer, hidden inside a diamond box, or guaranteed through influence. It is something raw, human, and priceless, a currency that does not obey the laws of wealth. For a billionaire, this realization is often more painful than it is for anyone else. Because when you live in a world where everything is available at your fingertips, the one thing you cannot buy becomes the most haunting. It becomes a reminder of your own limitations, your own humanity. You can expand empires, scale businesses, and transform industries, but you cannot force someone to care about you. You cannot buy sincerity. You cannot purchase genuine affection. And that is why emotional connection holds a power that billions can never match. Consider the life of a billionaire who is constantly surrounded by people, advisors, assistants, security teams, investors, and admirers. His days are filled with meetings, negotiations, and decisions that shape the future of industries. Everyone around him speaks to him with respect, perhaps even fear. But how many of them speak to him honestly? How many see him as he truly is, and not as the titan he appears to be? How many people dare to contradict him, challenge him, or comfort him without calculation? This loneliness is often misunderstood. People assume wealth protects you from isolation, but in reality, it often amplifies it. When you have everything, you never really know who is there for you and who is there for what you have. So when a billionaire experiences real emotional connection, especially when it comes from someone who sees him beyond the money, beyond the power, it becomes something rare, fragile, and treasured. And that is where the forbidden attraction begins to bloom. What draws him is not the thrill of danger, not the excitement of secrecy, but the simple reality that for the first time he feels understood, he feels seen, he feels human, and that feeling, which so many take for granted, becomes a luxury even his billions cannot access. True emotional connection requires vulnerability, something wealth often shields you from. Billionaires are trained to be guarded, strategic, and composed. Their lives are built around control, predictability, and calculated decisions. But emotional connection breaks through all of that. It does not care about market trends or strategic forecasts. It demands openness. It demands trust. It demands that the billionaire remove the armor he has worn for years and reveal the parts of himself that even he has been afraid to confront. And so, the forbidden attraction becomes more than just romantic tension. It becomes a longing for authenticity in a world full of transactions, a desire to be valued not for net worth, but for personality, dreams, flaws, and fears. It becomes a hunger for a type of intimacy that the world assumes he does not need. Because how could someone with so much want something so simple? Yet simplicity is often what the wealthy crave most. A conversation without hidden agendas, a smile that isn't a strategic move, a moment of peace where they are not the billionaire, the CEO, the empire builder, but just a person, flawed, hopeful, and deeply human. This truth sits at the heart of the billionaire's emotional struggle. He can buy everything except the one thing that truly matters. He can fill his world with luxury, but not with connection. He can host lavish parties, but still feel painfully alone. He can write checks worth millions, yet remain bankrupt in affection. And so, when emotional connection finally appears, it becomes irresistible, not because it is forbidden, but because it is real. It becomes the one treasure he cannot store in a vault or display on a shelf. It becomes the only thing that reminds him of who he is beneath the title, beneath the wealth, beneath the expectations of the world. It becomes the one thing he values more than everything he owns combined. There is something undeniably magnetic about the things we cannot have. Human nature has a strange way of assigning extraordinary value to whatever lies just beyond our reach. And when it comes to attraction, the forbidden often transforms into something far more potent than the ordinary. Not because it is perfect, and not because it is guaranteed to last, but because its very unattainability gives it a different kind of power. A power rooted in rarity, danger, and desire. In the world of a billionaire, this concept becomes even more intense. Someone who has access to almost everything, luxury, influence, and opportunity, rarely encounters something they genuinely cannot touch. Their life, shaped by privilege and power, is built on the ability to obtain what they want, when they want it. So when something or someone appears in their life that doesn't follow the rules of access, it triggers a deeper curiosity. It disrupts the rhythm of a person used to control, and in that disruption, attraction begins to grow like a spark catching fire in the shadows. What is forbidden is not powerful because it is dangerous. It is powerful because it is limited. Rare things always carry more value. A stone becomes precious when only a few exist in the world. A moment becomes unforgettable when it only happens once. A person becomes extraordinary when they stand out in a crowd of thousands. And love becomes irresistible when every force around you insists you cannot have it. For the billionaire, this forbidden attraction may take many forms. A connection with someone from a different world, someone society disapproves of, someone his reputation cannot afford, someone his family would never accept, or simply someone who refuses to be swayed by wealth. Each of these barriers, social, emotional, or personal, becomes a reminder that not everything bends to money, and that resistance, that impossibility, makes the feeling stronger. The forbidden acts like a mirror, reflecting back all the feelings the billionaire never allowed himself to explore. He becomes aware of his own humanity, his own vulnerabilities, his own capacity to long for someone who isn't impressed by him. And in a life full of scripted interactions, the forbidden connection feels unscripted, unpredictable, and thrillingly real. The rarity of the forbidden also lies in the fact that it challenges comfort. Most people pursue what is easy, familiar, and guaranteed. But the forbidden attraction is none of these things. It asks for risk. It asks for courage. It demands stepping outside the boundaries that society, family, or even one's own fears have drawn. This is why it becomes such a powerful force. It awakens a part of us that refuses to settle for ordinary. It pulls us toward a feeling we cannot rationalize, only experience. The forbidden also gains its power from the imagination. When something is out of reach, the mind begins to fill in the spaces between reality and possibility. It becomes the subject of fantasy, curiosity, and emotional weight. You begin to wonder what life would be like if you crossed the line, if you followed your heart instead of the rules, if you allowed yourself to experience something others say you shouldn't. And in those quiet moments of imagination, the forbidden transforms into a desire difficult to ignore. But there is deeper psychology behind it as well. People often crave what they feel they have been denied. The moment society, norms, or circumstances place a wall between you and what you want, the desire intensifies. For a billionaire who rarely hears the word no, that denial carries even more emotional impact. It is not just a boundary, it is a challenge. It is an invitation to confront feelings he has ignored, emotions he has suppressed, and truths he has long avoided. The forbidden becomes powerful because it forces honesty. You can pretend you don't care about something that is accessible, but you cannot dismiss something you are desperate to reach. It forces the billionaire to confront the depth of his emotions. It makes him realize that desire is not logical, it is instinctual. It makes him understand that connection does not follow rules, it follows energy, and it proves to him that the heart is the one thing he cannot manipulate or control. There is also a transformative element to the forbidden. Because it is rare, it teaches value, it teaches humility, it teaches gratitude, it teaches patience, and most importantly, it teaches the power of wanting something not for convenience, not for image, not for possession, but simply because it feels right. The forbidden attraction becomes a turning point, not because it is reckless, but because it is revealing. It reveals who you are when the world isn't watching. It reveals what you truly desire when money is taken out of the equation. It reveals what kind of person you become when you face something you cannot simply buy, command, or control. And that revelation, more than anything else, is what gives the forbidden its rare and unshakable power. There is a moment in every powerful person's life when they discover something they never expected. That the heart does not recognize titles, wealth, or social boundaries. True attraction, raw, unfiltered, and uncontrollable, does not bow to status or fear power. Instead, it slips through the cracks of the strongest defenses and reaches a place within us that no amount of influence can protect. And in the world of a billionaire, where hierarchy and authority shape everything, this truth becomes even more astonishing. A billionaire lives inside a fortress, one built from reputation, expectation, and responsibility. People treat him differently not because of who he is, but because of what he has. Every handshake, every compliment, every interaction is carefully polished by social awareness. He is spoken to with respect, caution, sometimes envy, sometimes fear. But rarely, very rarely, is he spoken to with sincerity. This creates a distance between him and the world, a distance he may not even realize exists until someone crosses it. True attraction happens in these unexpected crossovers. It arrives without permission, without calculation, without agenda. It happens not because someone is impressed by the billionaire's status, but because something deeper resonates, something human, vulnerable, instinctive. It might be a moment of eye contact, a conversation that feels unexpectedly genuine, a disagreement that sparks curiosity instead of anger, a smile that pulls him out of the roles he's forced to play. Suddenly, the billionaire realizes that power cannot control this feeling. Influence cannot manipulate it. Wealth cannot accelerate or delay it. Attraction emerges from authenticity, not advantage. And that realization is disarming because it reminds him of the one truth he has spent his entire life trying not to confront, that beneath the surface, he is just a person longing to be understood. True attraction breaks through status because it does not care who stands at the top of the world. It does not care about net worth, luxury, or applause. It responds only to chemistry, emotional resonance, and connection. It forms in the quiet spaces where identity is stripped down to its essence. When the billionaire is not the CEO, not the empire builder, not the headline, but simply himself, flawed, hesitant, hopeful, it breaks through power because power is a tool of influence, not intimacy. Power can move crowds, but it cannot move hearts. Power can open doors, but it cannot open someone's soul. When the billionaire encounters someone who does not fear him, who does not flatter him, who does not adjust their personality to please him, it shocks him. It intrigues him. It draws him closer because finally, he is interacting with someone real. This authenticity is rare in his world, and rare things carry enormous emotional impact, especially when the person he is drawn to stands outside the boundaries of his usual life. Perhaps they live differently, think differently, speak differently. Perhaps they challenge him instead of obeying him. Perhaps they make him question the rules he believed he had to live by. And then there is fear. True attraction breaks through fear by forcing emotional honesty, fear of falling, fear of vulnerability, fear of losing control, fear of being judged, fear of choosing the heart over the reputation. The billionaire has spent years hiding behind confidence, logic, and composure. But attraction exposes the parts of him that cannot be controlled. The softness he hides, the fears he denies, the desires he suppresses. It makes him feel alive in a way success never did. This is why true attraction is so powerful, because it bypasses everything the mind tries to protect. It goes straight to the heart, where logic loses its authority. And once that connection is formed, no level of status can silence it. No amount of power can push it away. No fear can fully erase it. The billionaire may try to deny it, bury it, rationalize it. Yet the more he resists, the stronger it becomes. Because true attraction recognizes something deeper than wealth or prestige. It recognizes compatibility of soul. It recognizes emotional frequency. It recognizes truths that society tries to hide. When he is with this person, he feels different, not because of who he is in public, but because of who he becomes in private. Someone softer, someone more honest, someone more open, someone more himself than he has been in years. In that space, power becomes irrelevant. Status becomes meaningless. What matters is the undeniable connection that keeps pulling him closer, no matter how hard he tries to maintain distance. And in that pull, he begins to understand that true attraction is not about possession or perfection. It is about recognition, two people recognizing something in each other that the rest of the world cannot see. And this recognition breaks through every barrier, status, power, and even fear. Because the heart listens to a different set of rules. A set of rules that cannot be bought, controlled, or silenced. In a world where strength is celebrated and weakness is hidden, vulnerability often feels like a risk too great to take. And for a billionaire, someone who has built an empire brick by brick, guarded his reputation with precision, and maintained control over every aspect of his life, vulnerability is not just uncomfortable, it is terrifying, because to love is to expose the one part of himself that money cannot shield and power cannot protect. Love, real love, demands that we let down our walls. It asks us to open doors we have kept locked for years. It forces us to show the fragile pieces of ourselves that we would rather keep buried. And for a billionaire, those hidden pieces are especially delicate. After all, he has spent a lifetime cultivating strength, strategizing, negotiating, conquering challenges, and ensuring that no one could ever take advantage of him. Vulnerability has no place in the world of business. It is seen as a crack in the foundation, a flaw in the armor. Yet love does not care about armor. Love slips through the smallest cracks and expands them until the heart has no choice but to feel. This is why love can be frightening for someone who has lived with control. Love asks for surrender, an emotional surrender that no contract can secure and no amount of wealth can buy. It requires the billionaire to reveal his uncertainties, his fears, his insecurities, and the parts of himself he has never allowed anyone to see. It demands a level of honesty greater than any business negotiation. It demands emotional exposure. Love says, "Show me who you are, not what you have." And in that request lies the true challenge, because what if who he is isn't enough? What if the person he cares for walks away once the titles and wealth are stripped away? What if the world sees him differently when they discover that beneath the powerful exterior lies a man who feels deeply, who fears rejection, who longs for something real? These questions stir a panic that logic cannot quiet. And yet, the heart continues to push toward connection, asking for trust even when trust feels dangerous. Vulnerability becomes the bridge between two souls. It becomes the doorway through which true love enters. Without vulnerability, there is only distance. Two people standing close in proximity, but miles apart emotionally. But with vulnerability, walls crumble, masks fall, and the billionaire finally becomes someone capable of being loved not for his achievements, but for his essence. And that is what he truly desires. He wants someone who loves him not because of the world he has built, but because of the person he becomes when the world fades away. Someone who sees him not as a symbol, but as a human being. Someone who makes him feel safe enough to speak his truth, express his fears, and let go of control. Someone who listens to the unspoken emotions he has never dared to share. Yet this kind of connection cannot exist without vulnerability. You must allow yourself to be seen, not the curated version, not the perfect version, not the powerful version, the real version. Love does not grow in the presence of emotional walls. It grows in the moments when the walls are lowered, even if only for a heartbeat. For the billionaire, this is a journey of learning that vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength. It is courage. It is the willingness to risk your heart knowing there is no guarantee of safekeeping. It is the willingness to trust someone with the most fragile parts of your soul. Vulnerability also teaches humility. When the billionaire realizes that money cannot purchase love, he begins to understand that the heart operates on a different currency. The experiences, emotions, and imperfections he tried to hide become the very things that make him lovable. The cracks in his armor do not diminish him, they humanize him. In love, vulnerability is not an option, it is a requirement. Without it, love becomes shallow, controlled, transactional. But with it, love becomes transformative. It becomes deeper, richer, and more meaningful than anything wealth can offer. Vulnerability creates intimacy, the kind of intimacy that goes beyond physical connection and reaches into the realm of emotional truth. And slowly, the billionaire begins to see that vulnerability is the gateway to everything he thought he could never have. It is the key to smiling for no reason. It is the reason he finds comfort in someone's presence. It is the reason he feels understood, accepted, and seen in a way he never expected. Because love at its core does not grow through perfection. It grows through honesty, through the bravery of opening the heart. Through the willingness to say, "This is who I am. I hope you choose me anyway." When people look at a billionaire, they often imagine a life free of difficulty. No financial struggles, no scarcity, no limitations. They see a person who wins battles with ease. The battle of competition, the battle of ambition, the battle of becoming the best. But what many fail to realize is that the hardest battles are never the ones fought in boardrooms, markets, or negotiations. The greatest battles are the ones fought in silence, deep within the mind and heart, where no audience watches and no applause awaits. For a billionaire, these internal battles are magnified. The outside world sees only victories, but victories mean nothing when the real conflict is happening inside. Behind every achievement lies a shadow, doubt, fear, loneliness, pressure, guilt, and the non-stop expectation to remain perfect. And when attraction, especially a forbidden, emotionally disruptive attraction, enters his life, it activates every internal conflict he worked so hard to bury. On the surface, he may appear unshakable. He signs documents worth millions with steady hands. He commands attention in every room he steps into. He makes decisions that affect thousands of people without hesitation. But inside, he is wrestling with questions he has no easy answers for. Questions that money cannot silence and power cannot overpower. Should he follow his heart or his responsibilities? Should he protect his reputation or risk it for something real? Should he keep his distance or allow himself to feel something he has long denied? These internal struggles have nothing to do with external circumstances. They are wars between logic and emotion, duty and desire, fear and hope. And these wars are far more intense than any business rivalry he has ever faced. The external world can be predicted, studied, and controlled, but the internal world is unpredictable. It is messy. It is vulnerable. That is what makes it so difficult. A billionaire can defeat competitors, overcome market crashes, and rebuild fortunes, but he cannot simply overpower his own feelings. He cannot silence his heart with strategy. He cannot negotiate away longing. He cannot analyze his emotions into submission. This truth shakes him more than any financial crisis ever could, because when he realizes that the attraction he feels is changing him, making him question himself, making him confront the parts of his life he has neglected, he must face an internal battle he never trained for. It forces him to confront fears he never admitted to having: the fear of intimacy, the fear of rejection, the fear of losing control, the fear that beneath all his success lies a man who is still learning how to love. And the forbidden nature of the attraction amplifies these internal conflicts. The more he tries to resist, the stronger the pull becomes. The more he tries to reason with himself, the more unreasonable his emotions grow. He begins to realize that the real struggle is not about choosing the right path. It is about choosing the honest one. Every moment becomes a battlefield. When he sees her, his heart accelerates. When he avoids her, his mind refuses to let go. When he tries to bury his feelings, they rise again with greater intensity. He is fighting against himself, not because he does not know what he wants, but because he is afraid of what wanting it might cost him. And this fear, this deep internal fear, is something he cannot admit to the world. He must navigate the expectations placed on him. He must uphold the image of strength. He must protect the empire he built. But the internal battle demands something different: honesty, self-reflection, the courage to admit that he is not invincible, that he is human, that he feels. These internal battles are not weakness. They are proof of growth. They show that he is evolving beyond the image of perfection the world has placed upon him. They show that he is shifting from a life governed by success to a life guided by meaning. They show that he is learning the difference between achievement and fulfillment. And in the quiet moments, when he is alone in his penthouse overlooking the city, or riding in the back of a limousine with his thoughts louder than the world outside, he realizes that the battles inside him are not obstacles. They are opportunities. Opportunities to understand himself in a deeper, more authentic way. Opportunities to discover what he truly values. Opportunities to decide whether he will continue living for the expectations of others or finally choose something for himself. Because the truth is simple: external success means nothing if the internal world is in turmoil. A man can own everything and still feel empty. He can be praised by millions and still feel misunderstood. He can be powerful in public and powerless in private. And it is in these internal battles where he discovers the truth about who he is and who he wants to become. In every person's life, there comes a moment when the world's noise becomes too loud, louder than intuition, louder than desire, louder than the quiet truth beating inside the chest. And for a billionaire whose life is constantly scrutinized, analyzed, and defined by public expectation, that noise can be overwhelming. He is told what success should look like, who he should be, what he should pursue, and even whom he should love. But real fulfillment does not come from living up to the standards set by society, family, or reputation. It comes from choosing the heart over the world's expectations. The world expects a billionaire to live a life of precision and perfection. A life where every decision is calculated, every move is strategic, and every relationship is based on social compatibility rather than emotional truth. He is expected to marry a partner from a similar background, maintain an image that aligns with his status, and avoid connections that could complicate or challenge his public identity. Love in his world is often treated like another business decision, a negotiation rather than a feeling. But the heart does not function like a boardroom. It does not care about social class, business alliances, or reputation. It cares about connection, about the person who brings warmth into cold spaces, who brings meaning into routine, who brings color into a life that has long been painted in shades of responsibility. When the billionaire feels a forbidden attraction, it becomes a test not of his wealth, but of his courage, the courage to choose authenticity over expectation. Real fulfillment demands honesty with oneself. It demands stepping away from the scripted path and embracing the unpredictable one. And this is where the billionaire's greatest transformation begins. He starts recognizing that the world may applaud him for his achievements, but applause does not equal happiness. Reputation does not equal peace. Status does not equal love. Perhaps for the first time, he feels a longing that cannot be met by success, a yearning that cannot be satisfied with luxury. He realizes that what he wants isn't what the world tells him he should want. He doesn't crave a perfect trophy relationship or a socially approved partner. He craves something real, someone real, a connection that makes him feel alive rather than admired, a relationship that nourishes his soul rather than his image. As he reflects on this, he begins to see how much of his life has been shaped by external approval. Every decision made with the awareness of how others would react. Every step taken inside an invisible cage built from expectations. Every emotion carefully suppressed to maintain the image of control and composure. But love, true, unfiltered love, asks him to break that pattern. To choose the heart is to choose vulnerability, unpredictability, and sometimes controversy. It means risking judgment, criticism, and misunderstanding. It means disappointing those who shaped his life but do not understand his pain. It means stepping into a future that no longer follows the outline others created for him. But in that risk lies fulfillment, because fulfillment is not found in living for others. It is found in living for oneself. He begins to question, what is the worth of success if it does not lead to happiness? What is the worth of wealth if it cannot buy peace? What is the worth of reputation if it forces him to betray his heart? These questions echo louder than the opinions of society. Because deep down, he knows that the only person who will live his life is him, not the critics, not the admirers, not the people who expect perfection from him. And no matter how much the world demands, the heart demands more. It demands truth. It demands passion. It demands connection. Choosing the heart may complicate his life, but it enriches it in ways success never has. It gives him purpose beyond profit, meaning beyond achievement, joy beyond admiration. The forbidden attraction he feels becomes a symbol of the life he could choose if he is brave enough, of the version of himself he could become if he stops performing for the world. And slowly he realizes that the heart is not a weakness. It is a compass, a guide toward the life he truly wants, not the life he was trained to pursue. He sees that real fulfillment comes from embracing what feels right, not what looks right, from following the truth within him, not the expectations around him, from choosing love even when the world believes he shouldn't. Because at the end of every day, when the business deals are done, the applause fades and the world grows quiet, it is not success that keeps him alive. It is not reputation that gives him hope. It is not wealth that warms his soul. It is the heart, the simple, undeniable truth within him that whispers what he truly desires. Ladies and gentlemen, in the end, the billionaire's forbidden attraction is more than a tale of power and passion. It is a mirror reflecting some of the deepest truths of the human experience. It reminds us that even the wealthiest among us are not shielded from vulnerability, longing, or the chaos that love brings. It reminds us that status may build walls, but emotion finds a way to climb them. And it reminds us that attraction, no matter how forbidden, has a way of challenging who we are and shaping who we are meant to become. This story is ultimately about courage, the courage to feel when it would be easier not to. The courage to dream when the world says it's unrealistic. The courage to choose connection over convenience, authenticity over image, and vulnerability over control. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, that love in any form is not a weakness, it is a revolution. So as we walk away today, let us carry with us this truth, that no matter our background, our title, or the limitations society places upon us, we each hold the power and the right to pursue the kind of connection that ignites our soul. Because Sometimes the most forbidden attractions lead us to the most unforgettable transformations. Thank you.